One of the many pleasures of Frozen was not just Disney Animation's return to form, which they had already accomplished masterfully with Tangled. Rather, it was the reclamation and ownership they took over the princess genre for which they were in part responsible. Frozen addressed some of the pitfalls of past princesses. Often the princess has been a damsel in distress. Elsa is anything but. Princes are generally heroic. Hans is the complete and utter opposite. Most of the time, the story ends in romantic love. Not so with Frozen, which ends in a more family-oriented, sisterly love. In this way, the filmmakers hoped to address the problems with older princesses, such as Cinderella, Snow White, or Sleeping Beauty. Moana does much the same thing for Pocahontas and Mulan. Pocahontas and Mulan share much of the same structure. Both princesses are women outside of their culture. Their fathers are men of renown. Both films featured the ancestral heritage of the women. Both women have animal sidekicks, and both films feature a male romantic interest. Moana is situated well within this form. In all three films, the father figures are not just men of renown. They are the epitome of their cultures. Fa Chao, Mulan's father, is a revered military veteran. He shows devotion to the ancestors, his focus is unwavering, and although he is aging and suffers from an old wound, he stands tall when he is summoned for military duty. Powhatan leads his people as chief. When the audience is first introduced to him, he is just returning from leading his warriors in a successful military campaign against rival tribes. And during the climax, it is Powhatan, although at his daughter's behest, who is able to stop the war. Moana's father, Chief Tui, fits into this mold. He, like Powhatan, is chief among his people. Though he does not serve in a military capacity in the film, he is shown to be a proficient sailor. Having seen the troubles of the world, these men are strict fathers who have certain ideas about how their daughters should act. And of course, the daughters decide to do things quite differently. Pocahontas, Mulan, and Moana are cut of the same cloth. All three do things differently from their fathers, but also by the end of their respective films, all three are shown to hold the same values as their fathers. While Pocahontas differs from her father in her willingness to work with the settlers, she still puts her people first. She realizes that the settlers are valuable allies, and this puts her people in a better position. Mulan, like her father, puts family first. Though she does not follow the traditional role of a female in her culture, she protects her family by serving in her father's stead. In this way, her devotion is as unwavering as her father's. Similarly, Moana values her people's safety like her father. Unlike her father, however, she does not see safety on the island. This causes her to head for the open sea in direct opposition to Chief Tui. But the underlying motivation is the exact same one that caused her father to make his decree in the first place. These actions by the leading ladies are usually guided by the wisdom of past generations. In Pocahontas, Grandmother Willow serves as the voice of reason and wisdom. In Mulan, this role is filled by a whole host of ancestors, and Moana combines the two. The prodding force for Moana is Grandma Tala. Like Grandmother Willow, she gives Moana the knowledge and the gentle nudge in the right direction. Not only does she serve the same role as Grandmother Willow, she also kind of looks and sounds very similar. The grandmother figure is replaced in Mulan by many ancestors, and they provide a guiding and protecting force through Mushu. The ancestors in Moana are in some ways less involved, though there could be an argument to be made that they are the guiding force behind the water. Setting that aside, though, they do provide guidance in the form of the boats. This gives Moana the means and direction to continue on her quest. It proves to Moana that she is not wrong in her defiance of her father. Although it's not necessarily unique to Pocahontas and Mulan, they do have some of the more memorable sidekicks. Pocahontas' Miko and Flip both have personalities all their own. They even seem to get their own subplot in the film with Percy the pug. Mulan actually elevates the sidekicks to full-fledged supporting characters. Mushu, voiced by Eddie Murphy, acts as Mulan's coach, picking her up when she's down and offering advice whether or not she actually needs it. He also serves as the ambassador of the ancestors. While Mushu is overdeveloped in comparison to Miko and Flit, Cricket is almost underdeveloped. His personality is there, but he doesn't really serve in as large of a capacity. Moana differs slightly. While she still has animal sidekicks, Hi-Hi, the rooster, almost shows how ridiculous this trope is. He's still useful in that he swallows the heart of Te Fiti, but other than this, he is completely useless and barely serves as comic relief. At the onset of the film, it almost looks like the second animal will be filled by the pig. This doesn't last long, and the water quickly supersedes the pig. The water has more in common with Mushu. It is never explicitly stated that the water is the avatar of Moana's ancestors, but it is developed with a personality of its own and serves a valuable role throughout the film, unlike Hi-Hi. Where Moana differs from Pocahontas and Mulan, however, is in the love story. Moana is almost completely devoid of this element. There may be unspoken tension between Moana and Maui, but it remains unspoken long after the film ends. This, as in Frozen, shows that princesses don't need a prince to save them. In fact, Maui actually deserts Moana at one point, and Moana spends a good bit of the film tricking Maui into doing what's right. While Pocahontas and Mulan are both strong female leads, the stories aren't really possible without the active participation of John Smith and Shang. While Moana's story also relies on Maui, it's his active attempts not to participate that make him different. Moana doesn't do quite as much as Frozen does to subvert the genre tropes. It actually, more often than not, plays into them. Powhatan and Chief Tui actually have one of the same lines.
It suits you. It suits you.
But while it may not totally reclaim Pocahontas and Mulan, it does put a new spin on Disney's leading man, and in doing so shows audiences that princesses don't need to rely on the prince. Thanks again for tuning in. This video was an easy one to write, and it all stemmed from Chief Tui's line, which mirrors Powhatan's. I probably could have also thrown Jasmine into the mix, but I figured since that movie focuses on Aladdin, it might complicate things. In other news, I started using Twitter fairly regularly. I share a lot of the videos that I use to research what I actually post, and I'm starting to get the hang of Instagram. That is more focused on process and other projects. Check me out on both. Thanks again.